All right, man, and welcome back to the podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed the short break that we had. And so like I said, we've got a good show for you guys today. And actually, our topic for today, man, is pretty much, off the fly or off the cuff or whatever, the hip word is for basically just freestyling. This is totally unscripted, but it's a topic that, I just felt like I wanted to talk about in today's episode, And man, before I go ahead, just to let you guys know that, I'm not downgrading to only releasing one episode. It's just that the past 2 weeks have been just so hectic and so busy that I've only had time to release one episode per week. So I think from this week, I'm going to start putting out, 2 episodes a week again. It's just that, forgive me, man. These past 2 weeks have just been a fucking nightmare would be an understatement. That's actually what ties into, sort of like today's topic. All right. And the topic that we're actually going to talk about today, man, is adversity. Now, I know this doesn't really, how can I say, this doesn't really translate, or deal with the business side of professional sports or professional sports in general. But one thing we need to admit to ourselves is that adversity, man, it's a word that doesn't really discriminate against any industry. You're gonna get adversity. Sorry, I don't know, the word just went out of my mind for a moment. You're gonna get adversity in every single aspect of your life, whether it's relationships, whether it's just your daily grind, your hustle, whatever you're into. At some point, you're gonna encounter adversity. All right. And so adversity definitely ties into the business aspect of professional sports. It definitely ties into what happens on the field as well. If you're an athlete or have been an athlete, you're definitely going to know that at some point in time, you will face adversity. And how you shape up and show up to dealing with that adversity is actually going to determine basically your next couple of steps or where you go from there. And man, I actually thought I'd just share just a short story. I won't go into detail about it because, obviously NDAs were signed, so I can't go into the gory details of what pretty much happened the past 2 weeks. But the long and short story of it, man, is that I I was currently faced with a bit of adversity, with regards to my agency and stuff like that. And man, it's trying times. These were trying times, and I think when you're going into business, you will be tested. In just about how about this life you really are. And I think how you bounce back from that and how you handle that sort of determines whether, are you here to stay or are you just like a fly by night, type of thing. And I really, 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 was tested, Just to give you a gist of what kind of adversity I'm facing is that, so basically, I had to do a bit of damage control against a bit of not fraud, but scamming that was done against my business. I don't know if I've spoken, if you're tuning in for the first time about this, so basically, MAG, Mbekela Agency Group, we're predominantly a sports agency, and, me being a registered football agent, our number one sport in focus was, professional soccer, professional football. But, over the months since I started this agency, I started attracting a lot of attention in other industries. So I basically went into, real estate as well. So we added in an additional department that, I got registered as a real estate agent as well. And then over the last couple of months, again, I caught attention of another industry, which is outside of professional sports, outside of real estate. And yeah, I mean, I don't want to mention it by name. So basically, I was in the process of getting into this industry and basically adding on this additional department to my agency, only to find out that, there was a bit of scamming involved. So I had to act fast. I had to do a lot of damage control, and yeah, fucking hell. It nearly cost me, man, months and months and months of hard work. But, luckily, we're able to backtrack. Not all was gloom and doom, but yeah, a lot of damage control has had to be done. Is actually having to be done because I'm still doing the damage control as well. And that's pretty much why I've been only able to release, only one episode per week, is because, man, my schedule has been just fucking intense and hectic, So, yeah, man, so if you're a professional football player, or whatever, sporting code that you're involved in, I'm sure people can share countless stories of adversity that they faced on the field, and yeah, man, how you bounce back really, really, really does determine, where you go from there. I mean, I can also, share some sports stories. We can move away from the business aspect now and move on to the sports stories. I could share a couple of sports stories of adversity that I faced that, on the field. And I will never forget, man. So let's rewind back to the year 2009. So I'm 21 years old, all right? It's 2009, I'm 21 years old. I'm playing under 21 B Division Currie Cup rugby for the Falcons. In Afrikaans, they're known as the Falke, all right? So this is a team from the East Rand, on the east side of Johannesburg. And, I mean, they're not a big union. They're not a big team. All right. So if you're not from South Africa, what a union refers to is it's a provincial team. All right. Anywhere else in the world, you would just refer to them as a club. But in South Africa, the provincial teams are known as unions, provincial unions. Okay. So anyway, so the Falke are not, they're not a big time union. They're not like the Blue Bulls or Western Province or the Sharks or the Lions or the Cheetahs. So they fall under smaller unions. All right. So they play in the B Division under 21 Currie Cup. So I was featuring there, just trying to get some game time, and trying to get game footage, because I'd already decided that after my under 21 year, I wanted to move overseas and continue playing my rugby, because I could see that shit was hitting the fan in South Africa. I could see that my career was fast approaching the end in South Africa, and if I didn't leave, I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't be doing this podcast, and I wouldn't be discussing the journey that I've had. All right, so okay, yeah. So I mean, I got selected to play for the Falcon under 21. And I remember my first game for them, I was selected to sort of play out of position. Well, not really out of position. I mean, I had played wing before, but I literally spent my whole club season playing for the University of Pretoria in my under 21 year. We were playing for that famous Young Span under 21 team, which was just stacked with superstars. A lot of the guys who played in that under 21 university team ended up going pro in different countries in the world, and all around South Africa. Like, a lot of the guys really, really did well from that team. But anyway, so I had played that whole season as an outside center, number 13. And then when I got selected to play for the Falcon at 21, I got selected to play on the wing. All right, so this is my first time playing on the wing. The last time I played on the wing was when I was still in Potchefstroom, which was like a season ago. So obviously, I was going to be a bit rusty. Shit. So our first game was against Griquas under 21. Greek was under 21. And I mean, from an attacking standpoint, I was phenomenal. You know, I was running good lines, and I think I scored a try within like the first 5 minutes of the game. I was in the corner scoring. So I'm like, fuck, boom, hell yeah. I'm gonna have a hell of a game today, you know. Oh man. So the Greek was fly half. I don't know. I think he sort of read me and was like, nah man, this guy, he's out of position half the time, because I was so used to being up the whole time as a center. So this fly half from the Greek was, man, he starts getting the ball and he starts pumping, he starts kicking the ball to play, you know, basically to places that were exposing me that I'm out of position. And by the time I would, you know, be trying to backtrack or scramble or trying to get into position, the ball was bouncing around and around. So half the time I was misfielding the ball, you know. And I think from the first time I made a mistake, I think that's when he was like, okay, I've got this guy. And he just kept kicking in my position, and he kept catching me out that I was out of position. So the coach calls me along, like on the sidelines. I think we had like a water break. He calls me on the sidelines and he just fucking starts cussing me out. What was his name again? Coach, yeah, Derek Sampson. Yeah, Derek Sampson. So he starts cussing me out, man. Starts swearing at me and fucking telling me that I'm a good player. You know, the one thing I appreciate about Derek was that he didn't try to put me down, but he was trying to fucking get me to shape up, to get my head out of my ass, and to actually just be in the right position and to, you know, pick it up, because he was like, because the other teams picked up that you're always out of position, and what they're gonna do is they're gonna kick to your corner the whole fucking time. So, you know, get your head out of your ass. And yeah, man, and then I had like some of my teammates also, you know, crapping me out. So this is the adversity part I'm getting to you guys. That I literally went from hero scoring a try within the first 5 minutes to feeling this tiny, because now I literally had the whole team shitting on me and the coach also crapping on me. You know, I was faced with adversity, and I was literally in a position where I could have literally just gone into my shell and just, you know, let the game take over me and look like a fucking ass in front of everyone. Like it was a massive crowd over there, guys. It was a massive crowd. And Derek at halftime, he's like, Chester, I know you can play. Your teammates know you can play. But he's like, but that general manager from the Falcons is sitting up there in that booth. You know, he's sitting up there in the flippin' VIP booth asking himself, Derek, why the fuck are you selecting this, you know, quota rugby player of color to be in the team? You know, so he crapped me out, man. And fuck, guys, till this day, I'll always remember that game as being one of the, you know, I don't want to say the worst games, because the story unfolds a little bit more. But that time period of adversity is still one of the toughest I'd ever faced. And you literally are backed into a corner whereby you're forced to choose that, am I going to give up or am I going to keep fighting and playing? You know, so I did my best, man. And I just shaped up. And so second half, I did my best to try get into position. And so, yeah, I mean, they kicked a couple of times, but I was in position and I was fielding the balls and everything. But I was still feeling so crappy. But long and story short, guess who scored the last try of the game? Me again. Man, but, you know, by the time I didn't even celebrate when I scored that last try of the game. I mean, we ended up winning the game. I mean, we beat the Griquas. I think the score was about 45. We beat them about 45-25, yeah, 45-25. But yeah, by the time I scored that last try of the game, everyone was celebrating. Everyone, ran over to hug me. But I just walked back. I still had my head down. I was feeling down even after the game. But yeah, from that adversity, I learned that, and it taught me when, going back to training the next Tuesday, I literally worked on my positional play like nobody's business. I literally spent about a good 3.5 hours after training practicing my positional work, because I never wanted to feel like how I'd felt during that Griquas game. I never wanted to feel like that again. So through that adversity, it forced me to work harder, And I think that's the message that I got from that experience, was that, look, adversity, man, you can look at that demon, that beast, with two perspectives. You can either look at it as something that's going to cripple you, that's there to basically destroy you, or you can be the one that looks at, the glass half full type of thing, whereby you tell yourself that, listen, you're going to take this as an opportunity, or the lesson that you're going to learn from this adversity is that, listen, maybe I need to put in more work so that I never have to feel like this again. But obviously, every single time you level up, adversity will show up in a different, sort of like in a different sphere or different aspect. But because you've learned how to deal with that, in the past, you might be more equipped to be a little bit more composed and be like, okay, I'm gonna experience, I'm gonna absorb this pressure, and I'm gonna do my best to see what lesson I have to learn from this so that I can elevate. So yeah, so that's pretty much my topic about adversity today. And like I said, I'm pretty sure so many athletes, coaches, former athletes, and everyone who follows a podcast, whether you're a soccer player, whether you're a rugby player, whether you're a basketball player, golfer, tennis player, cricket player, I don't care what sport you play, you've definitely been on the receiving end of adversity. And the best thing about, the sporting world is that you learn to bounce back from this type of adversity. Also in the business world, man, I'm sure you've encountered adversity in the business world as well, especially, in fact, it doesn't matter what line of business you're in. Sometimes you will make forecasting. Sometimes you will forecast that, you're projecting sales to be this much and you don't hit the target. Right there, that's adversity hitting you. Sometimes, or if you're in the service industry, you might predict that maybe your clientele might be sitting at this number. If you may be projecting or forecasting for the future and you don't quite hit that target. Or sometimes adversity shows up at your door where you lose a client for no apparent reason. And it could be one of your high-paying clients for no apparent reason. And from that point of adversity, you are forced to sit back, assess the situation, and because you've encountered adversity countless times in your life, you're able to have a bit of composure and you're able to strategize and see how to navigate. Not from a panicking point of view. And my older sister actually said something very profound where she was like, look, when you're sitting back and assessing the situation, try to use your mind less and use, your sense of self, your inner being, so that you know how to navigate this going forward. Because sometimes your mind could be freaking out and you could be reacting based on the fact that you're panicking. You're using your brain. She was like, do your best to get out of your head and actually try to navigate this thing using your sense of self, your inner being. see the path that you have to take, and then just, go along with it, go with the flow. Adversity is everywhere, guys. And, I just wanted to share that, those two stories that, these past 2 weeks, man, it's been adversity, but I don't glorify it. I'm not glorifying it. I'm definitely, taking it on, head on, staying positive, and I know that my agency will make it through this. But just, in carrying on, and I've announced this in some of my social media pages, especially like LinkedIn. So our agency is going back to primarily focusing on professional sports. All right. On the positive note, professional basketball now is back in terms of the agent's licensing process. So FIBA Asia will now be taking applicants to write their FIBA agents licensing tests. So I'm excited about that. So crossing my fingers that later this year I will be able to make the journey to Singapore to get my licensing, to be able to act as a professional basketball agent as well. So that is the reason. That is actually the reason why that I've decided that all other spheres, all other departments, we're going to be divesting, and we're going to predominantly focus on professional sports. Maybe someday we're going to go back to diversifying into other business units and other industries. But at the moment, our main focus will be professional sports, because at the end of the day, that is what our agent is built on. That is the core business operations of MAG, Bekela Agency Sports. I love sports. I love pro sports. I lived pro sports, so it only makes sense that when returning to the core of our business, that we return to pro sports as our formal or primary focus of business operations. All right, guys. So that's pretty much what our discussion is about today on the podcast. And just, before we go, man, again, special thanks and thank you to everyone who's been supporting the podcast. I really appreciate you guys. And you can keep supporting the podcast, as I say every single episode, by getting our podcast merchandise. You can also get our podcast, Sports Biz ebook series that basically details and talks about my journey to becoming a sports agent. So it's basically for anybody who's looking to get into the business side of professional sports. That book could be very helpful, because it really talks about my transition from being an athlete and basically walking the path and going into the business of pro sports. All right. So that's pretty much what the podcast was about today, man. And just before we go, remember our slogan: we don't only talk pro sports, we effing lived it. All right, we lived it. Take care of yourselves. Still chilly out here in Tokyo. Like, guys, this global, what do you say? A global climate change. This thing is real, man. It's May and I still haven't been able to go and swim at the beach. Last year, May, I was already at the beach. The year before, by May, I was already at the beach. This year, it's still cold. So this whole climate change thing, man, don't take it lightly. It kind of is real, It kind of really is real. All right, so man, so this is Sports Biz from an agent's perspective, and you've been listening to your host, Zila, aka Chestan Bekela. And take care of yourselves, guys. Take care, and I'll see you on the next episode. Cheers.